Miles McBride is the New York Knicks' best kept secret. Let's get into this.
Dosage. Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic.
Quickly before we get the video started, if you guys enjoy this video and want to see more NBA content just like this one, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell. Anyways, back to the video. So far early on in this season, it's certainly been an up and down year for the Knicks. They started out on fire with a record of 5-1, guys like Julius Randle picking up where he left off last year, RJ Barrett playing extremely well, some of the guys they brought in during the offseason, and Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier were playing very well. Overall, the Knicks looked like a very good unit. But after that fantastic start for the Knicks basically completely collapsed. After that great start, the Knicks record after that 5-1 start was actually 7-16, just a complete fall off from where they were previous. There were a ton of different reasons why the Knicks were struggling so tremendously, specifically some issues with Evan Fournier and Julius Randle individually, but besides just those two individual players, as a team offensively, they just did not look fluid whatsoever. They were looking way too tentative at points and just not moving the ball effectively whatsoever, and defensively, their defense really struggled. After being such a great defensive team last year, it was very strange to see the Knicks struggle so tremendously on the defensive side this year, especially when you look at the Knicks roster this year, which is basically the same as it was last year, because last year was a very successful season for the Knicks. They made it all the way to the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, made the playoffs. Now of course in the playoffs they completely fell apart and didn't do what they would have liked obviously, but either way it was definitely a successful season. So after bringing in two pretty good free agents, at least seen at the time in Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, basically adding to the same team as we had last year, there were certainly some expectations that the Knicks should be a better team this year than they were last year at the very least, and maybe they can even be a lot better than we thought. But for the Knicks to come out this year and struggle so significantly was just something a lot of people didn't see coming, and probably the most disappointing part about all of this. But hope isn't completely lost for the Knicks. During the draft, the Knicks actually drafted a guy by the name of Miles McBride that was drafted with the number 36 overall selection in the second round of this year's draft. Now the scouting report going into the NBA draft about Miles was certainly he was a very talented defender. He's going to do a great job at guarding the opposing team's best player, at least in college, and it was also thought once transitioning into the NBA, his defensive ability would translate pretty well. But besides just his great defensive abilities, offensively he certainly had an ability to drive all the way to the basket and finish around players, or sometimes even dunk over players with his above average athleticism. Now of course he is undersized, so he's not going to get too many post-rising dunks, but he just had the ability to do so. But there were some questions and concerns about Miles, which is the reason why he went in the second round. Now the first question was, a lot of scouts weren't necessarily sure how good of a passer and playmaker Miles would be once transitioning into the NBA, and with Miles being undersized, it was difficult to see him playing at that shooting guard because it would obviously be very difficult for him to guard taller guys. So Miles was kind of in that in-between range where maybe he was a point guard, maybe he was a shooting guard, that combo guard that a lot of teams typically like to stay away from, at least early on in the draft. But on the offensive side, there was also some questions and concerns about his jump shot. He always had a very good mid-range jump shot, and I don't think people were concerned about that, but a lot of scouts weren't necessarily sure how well he can shoot from that three-point range. He showed some inconsistencies in college where sometimes he was pretty good, sometimes he was definitely off, and in this day and age, it's very important for your point guard to be able to shoot that three-point shot, especially if you're undersized like Miles is. So although there definitely was some nice things about Miles going into the NBA draft, there was also some questions and concerns, which is the reason why he fell all the way to the second round. But after a pretty good summer league for Miles, so far early on in this season, Miles has basically been behind the scenes for the Knicks. Miles basically hasn't played at all throughout the whole regular season for the Knicks main roster, and he's basically been at the end of the bench each and every game, unless it's garbage time, then he'll get a few minutes here and there. But Miles has been playing over in the G League a little bit, and he's been putting up very impressive numbers. Miles is averaging almost 27 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 9.5 assists per game, and also adding 48% shooting as well. So certainly very impressive numbers for Miles. But after playing very impressively over in the G League for some time now, basically throughout the whole season, head coach Tom Thibodeau was just not playing Miles whatsoever. But that changed for Miles once the Knicks played the Golden State Warriors. When the Knicks played the Golden State Warriors a few days ago, the Knicks really had no choice but to play Miles. They had so many players out with health and safety protocols that the Knicks were just very short-handed and had to give Miles a shot. But once Miles actually got in the game for the Knicks against one of the best teams, maybe the best team in the NBA this season in the Golden State Warriors, he certainly impressed pretty significantly. differently. Defensively, he showed his defensive grit and the reason why he was drafted, with fantastic defense on Steph Curry. Now, of course, it's Steph Curry and he's going to get his shots, but for the most part, considering he's a rookie playing basically in his first game, I thought he played great defense, but even in general, I thought he just played very good defense on Steph. But besides just his great defensive intensity, offensively, he also looked very impressive. Miles was running the offense pretty effectively, getting open shots for his teammates either in the corner for a wide open three, running the pick and roll decently effectively, just making his teammates' lives a lot easier, and overall, I thought he was running the offense a lot better than Julius Randle was for the most part. But in terms of his individual scoring, to me personally, he was very impressive. Of course, he showed his ability to drive all the way to the basket and finish around people with crafty layups, also showed off his really good athleticism, but what really impressed me is just his shot making in terms of his jump shooting. Miles showed a bunch of different moves where he had some sidestep step backs from that mid-range area, which I already knew he was able to do, but what impressed me most was his three-point shooting ability. As I said before, Miles was definitely inconsistent in college, but at the same time certainly did show somewhat of a three-point shooting stroke. But also Miles has been shooting very well from three in the G League as well, and when you actually look at his jump shot form, you can tell he has a pretty nice jump shot. And in this previous game that just happened against the Houston Rockets, he had another very nice game. Miles had 15 points on 6 of 11 shooting, 3 rebounds, and also 9 assists. The most impressive part to me personally about these previous 2 games for Miles is the fact that he's had 0 turnovers. But besides just the numbers and the stats, when you actually watch him on the court, you can tell he's so calm, he's not nervous whatsoever, playing in Madison Square Garden, playing in the NBA for the first time basically, and he just looks very confident out there, which is exactly what you want from your young rookie, but especially if that rookie plays that point guard position. So overall, I think Miles is certainly going to be a very good player in the league, and for a second round pick, I think the Knicks got an absolute steal. Now we'll see what happens. I know it's only been 2 games, maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but based upon what I've been seeing both in the G League, the Summer League, also in college, and also of course early on in these 2 games for the Knicks, I'm seeing very good things and very good signs going forward for him. We'll see what happens going forward. Maybe Miles could potentially be a starting point guard for the Knicks, maybe he could be a franchise point guard for the Knicks, maybe just a guy who comes off the bench and provides very good minutes for them. I'm not exactly sure where he could potentially get to, but when watching him on the court, in my opinion, I feel like you can tell he's a very talented player and certainly has a bright future going forward. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Miles McBride could potentially be a secret weapon for the Knicks, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.
Dosage. Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetics. Hope you can't go where I'm headed.